The marketplace was dark and noisy, filled with a mix of alien voices shouting, calling, and bargaining. The lights flickered above, casting long shadows over the crowded space. Creatures of all shapes and sizes moved through the aisles, some carrying strange weapons, others clutching credits tightly. The smell of burnt food and metal filled the air, mixing with a faint, bitter scent of fear. In the center of the marketplace, a small stage had been built. Covered in chains and cold metal, on that stage stood a poor alien widow, her clothes torn and ragged, her thin arms wrapped protectively around her daughter, a small girl with wide, frightened eyes. Both of them trembled as the auctioneer shouted their price. The crowd jeered, some laughing cruelly, others raising bids without hesitation. The widow's heart pounded in her chest. She tried to keep her daughter close, whispering softly, "Stay behind me, my child." But her voice was barely audible over the chaos. Every face in the crowd seemed hungry for misery. Every pair of eyes weighed the worth of a mother and child as if they were nothing more than animals. The little girl clutched her mother's arm, hiding her face. She had never felt fear like this before, and she prayed silently for anyone to save them. From the edge of the crowd, a human stepped forward, his boots making soft thuds. On the metal floor, he was tall and strong, dressed in a uniform that marked him as a soldier. His eyes scanned the scene carefully. Noting the fear in the widow's eyes, he had been sent here with a mission, an order to purchase the widow as part of a deal. But as he looked at the trembling mother and child, a knot formed in his stomach. He felt something he had not expected, compassion. The auctioneer's voice cut through the noise. "Do I hear more credits? Who will take this poor family?" He shouted, pointing at the widow, his green eyes glinting with excitement. The crowd answered with louder shouts, hands raised and weapons brandished for show. The human's jaw tightened. He clenched his fists, knowing that if he stayed silent, the mother and child would be sold to someone cruel, someone who would hurt them for fun. He stepped closer, letting the crowd notice him. The chatter and bidding grew louder, some bidders pointing at him, questioning his presence. "Who is this? Human?" One alien muttered, curiosity mixed with suspicion. The auctioneer raised an eyebrow, sensing a potential higher bid. The human looked at the widow, then at her daughter, his mind racing with thoughts. He could not turn away. He raised his hand, signaling that he would bid. The crowd gasped, a murmur running through the aliens. Some laughed, some sneered, but the widow did not notice. She was too afraid to hope. Her daughter pressed against her, whispering, "Mama, what will happen to us?" The human's voice was calm but firm. "I will take care of you," he said, not revealing much, but enough for them to understand. His words did not go unnoticed. The widow's eyes widened slightly, disbelief and hope mixing together. The auctioneer's hand shot up. "Do I hear more? Higher!" He shouted, excitement building. The human did not flinch. He counted his credits carefully, knowing that he could offer enough to buy them and protect them from the cruel crowd. The bidding climbed quickly, other aliens trying to outbid him, wanting the widow and child for themselves. The human's fingers tightened around the credits, sweat forming on his brow. A sudden shout erupted from one corner, a bidder trying to scare the human. "You don't know what you are doing, human. They are worthless." The human did not respond, his eyes never leaving the widow and child. He raised his hand again, offering the final bid he could. The auctioneer looked surprised, then quickly slammed the gavel, signaling the sale. The widow blinked, unsure if she had heard correctly. The little girl's small hand gripped her mother's tightly. Trembling, the crowd began to murmur, some disappointed, others curious. The human stepped forward cautiously, carefully cutting the chains that held the mother and daughter. His movements precise, but every second felt like a lifetime. The widow stared at him, unable to speak. The child peeked out, fear still present, but mixed with wonder. The human extended his hand. "Come with me," he said softly, guiding them away from the stage. As they moved through the crowded marketplace, aliens watching them with suspicion, The human kept a steady pace. The mother and daughter followed closely, trusting him despite knowing nothing about this stranger. Each step was dangerous, each shadow could hide a threat, but for the first time in hours, maybe days, the widow felt a spark of hope. A human had chosen to protect them, not just buy them. The marketplace noises faded slightly behind them as they entered a narrow corridor, the dim light above casting long trembling shadows. The little girl looked up at the human, her eyes wide, and whispered, "Are we safe now?" The human did not answer immediately, but his expression said everything. "I will keep you safe," he promised. And in that moment, the mother's heart began to trust, just a little. They were not yet free from danger, but a choice had been made. A human had decided to be more than a soldier, more than an observer. He chose compassion, courage, and protection. In that moment, the auction of misery had ended, but a new story, one of hope, danger, and unlikely heroes, was just beginning. Asterisk. Night air was heavy and cold as the human led the alien widow and her daughter through narrow, shadowy streets. The marketplace noises were far behind them, but the danger had not ended. Alien creatures lurked in every corner, some with sharp claws, others with glowing eyes. All of them seemed ready to snatch or attack anyone who looked vulnerable. The mother held her daughter close, whispering, "Stay behind me. Keep quiet." But her voice shook. The human's boots made soft echoes against the metal floor. His eyes constantly scanned for movement, looking for anyone who might follow them. He felt the weight of responsibility pressing down on him. Each step could be a trap, each shadow a hiding enemy. But he could not leave them, not after seeing their fear. The little girl peeked around her mother, her eyes wide and filled with both terror and curiosity. She had never seen a human act with such care. Behind them, a group of alien guards had realized the sale had been taken away from them. Their leader barked orders, pointing in the human's direction. "Stop them. Bring them back," he shouted, his voice harsh and metallic. The human quickened his pace, ducking behind crates and narrow walls, using every alley and shadow to hide his small group. His mind raced, trying to figure out a way to escape without confrontation. But the city was alive with danger. Every alleyway could lead to a dead end. Every shadow could hold a bounty hunter. The mother's heart beat so fast she thought it might burst. She whispered to the child, "Hold on, we must trust him." And the girl nodded, trembling. The human noticed their fear and gave a reassuring smile. "Keep moving. I will not let anyone hurt you," he said, his voice steady, calm, even though his own nerves were tense. A sudden shout came from above, and a narrow drone hovered down from the rooftops, scanning the streets, its sensors glowing red. The human pressed them into a hidden doorway, shielding them with his body. The mother's breath came in short, sharp gasps, and the little girl buried her face into her mother's shoulder. The drone's red light passed over them, then moved on, leaving them shaken but unharmed. The human led them through a maze of backstreets, avoiding main roads and open spaces. He whispered instructions. "Stay close, and do not make a sound." The little girl followed silently, her small hand in her mother's, who clutched it tightly. Their footsteps were light, but careful. Every sound seemed loud in the silence between the neon signs. The city felt alive, watching, waiting for a mistake. Suddenly, a group of alien thugs blocked their path, brandishing blunt weapons, their faces twisted with greed and malice. "Where do you think you are going, human?" one of them hissed, stepping forward. The human stepped protectively in front of the widow and her daughter, his hand brushing the hilt of a small but powerful weapon. "Move aside," he said firmly, "or you will regret it." The thugs laughed, mocking him, confident in their numbers. The mother's heart sank, fearing the worst. The little girl's small voice trembled. "Mama, what will happen now?" The human did not flinch, his eyes sharp and calculating. He waited for the right moment, then used his weapon's flash to disorient them. Bright lights and loud sound erupted, the thugs covering their eyes and ears. The human grabbed the mother, and daughter, pulling them through a narrow gap in a wall. Out of reach of their attackers, they ran again, hearts pounding, lungs burning. The mother whispered softly to her daughter, "He is saving us, he is brave," and the little girl nodded, feeling a spark of trust. The human did not speak, focusing on the path ahead, plotting the fastest and safest route. The city seemed endless, streets twisting and turning like a living maze, yet he moved with purpose, guiding them, protecting them. Every step a careful calculation. Finally, they reached an abandoned warehouse on the edge of the city. The human pushed open a heavy metal door, revealing a quiet, shadowed space. He motioned them inside, closing the door behind them, sealing them off from immediate danger. The mother let out a shaky breath, hugging her daughter tightly. "We are safe. For now," she whispered, though the words felt fragile. The little girl peeked at the human, awe and relief shining in her eyes. "Thank you," she murmured softly. The human sat down, leaning against the wall, still alert, still listening. The mother and daughter huddled together, warmth and trust slowly replacing fear. The night outside was full of predators, but inside this small space, for the first time they felt a small spark of hope. The human's decision to act, to protect them, had changed everything. Yet he knew the danger was far from over. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. But tonight, they had survived, and in that quiet warehouse, a bond began to form, fragile but real, between a human, a widow, and her daughter, one that might grow into trust, protection, and something stronger. The city outside whispered with danger. But inside, a small light of hope burned, and the human silently vowed, no matter what came next, he would not let them fall. The warehouse was silent except for the faint drip of water from the ceiling. The human glanced around, checking every corner, every shadow, making sure no one had followed them. The widow and her daughter crouched together near a pile of crates, still trembling, their eyes wide as they watched the human move, a strange mixture of fear and trust in their gaze. "Are we really safe here?" the mother whispered, her voice barely audible. The human knelt beside them, placing a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "For now," he said, "but we cannot stay long. They will search for you." The little girl peeked out from behind her. "Mother," curiosity shining through her fear. "Where are we going?" she asked softly. The human looked at her, his eyes serious but gentle. "Somewhere safe, where no one can find us," he promised. The mother clutched her daughter tightly, still unsure if hope was real. She had lived her entire life with fear and loss, and trusting a stranger was almost impossible. But something in the human's calm and determined presence made her want to believe. She nodded slowly, whispering, "We will follow you." Outside, the city hummed with danger. Neon lights flickered on the streets below, casting eerie shadows that seemed to move on their own. Alien patrols and bounty hunters prowled through the alleys, searching for any sign of the missing widow and child. The human's heart beat steadily, focusing on the route he had planned. Every step, every turn, needed to be precise. He led them through a hidden passage behind the warehouse, a narrow corridor only he seemed to know. The mother and daughter followed closely, their footsteps soft, trying not to make a sound. Every noise echoed in the corridor, making the mother's hands shake. The little girl pressed her face into her mother's back, gripping tightly, her small body trembling. Suddenly, a shadow moved ahead of them. Quick and silent, the human froze, signaling the others to stop. He held his hand up, listening carefully. The shadow turned out to be a small creature, probably a scavenger, but the sudden movement had made everyone jump. The mother let out a shaky sigh of relief, and the little girl whispered, "I thought it was them." They continued, moving through a series of hidden tunnels. The walls were damp, and the air smelled of metal and dust, but it was safer than the open streets, far from the patrols and bounty hunters. The human's mind worked quickly, calculating every step, knowing that if they were caught, there would be no mercy. The mother finally spoke, her voice trembling. Why? Why are you helping us? The human paused for a moment, considering his answer. Because it is the right thing to do, he said simply. You do not deserve this pain. The widow's eyes filled with tears. She had heard kindness before, but never like this. Never. From someone so strong and brave. The little girl looked up at the human, her small face full of wonder. Will we be okay? She asked softly. The human gave a small smile. We will survive this, together, he said. And the words felt like a shield around them, protecting them from fear. As they moved deeper into the tunnels, the mother noticed the human's careful movements, the way he checked every corner, every sound. She realized he was not just brave. He was smart, careful, and willing to risk everything for them. Hours passed as they navigated the labyrinth of tunnels. Every turn brought a new challenge, a new fear. Yet each step forward strengthened the bond between them. The human became more than a protector. He became a guide, a shield, and slowly, a part of their hearts. The mother whispered to her daughter, "He is our hope, remember that." And the little girl nodded, her eyes shining with cautious trust. Finally, they emerged from the tunnels. Near the edge of the city, the human surveyed the area, making sure no one had seen them. The open sky above, filled with stars, and for the first time in days, the mother and daughter felt the cool night air on their faces without immediate fear. We are almost safe, the human said, his eyes scanning the horizon. But even in this small moment of relief, danger was never far away. Patrols could appear. At any moment, bounty hunters could track them. The human knew that their escape was only temporary. Yet he felt a strange determination, a growing bond with the widow and her daughter. He would protect them, no matter the cost. And in that moment, under the quiet stars, a fragile hope began to grow. The mother looked at the human, gratitude and awe in her eyes. The little girl held her hand, still trembling, but beginning to feel that safety might exist. "Thank you," the mother whispered again, her voice barely audible. The human simply nodded. "We are not finished yet. Stay close, keep quiet," he said. And with that, they moved forward, deeper into the unknown. But together, the human led the alien widow and her daughter through the outskirts of the city. The streets here were darker, emptier, but the danger was sharper. Shadows moved unnaturally, and every sound echoed with a hint of threat. The mother clutched her daughter's hand, her heart pounding. "We must keep going," the human whispered. "Do not stop." Above them, the neon signs flickered, casting long twisted shadows across the broken walls. Somewhere in the distance, a howl of a patrol drone echoed, sending a shiver down their spines. The little girl's small fingers dug into her mother's sleeve, her eyes wide. "Are they coming for us?" she asked softly. The human looked back, scanning every corner, every dark alley. "They are searching, but we can stay ahead if we move carefully," he assured. Suddenly, a group of alien thugs appeared ahead, blocking the narrow street. Their weapons gleamed under the dim light, their eyes cruel and hungry. "There is no escape," one of them snarled, stepping forward. The human stepped in front of the mother and daughter, his stance firm. "I will not let you touch them," he said, his voice calm but strong. The thugs laughed, their confidence in numbers unshakable. They lunged forward, claws out, weapons raised. The human acted fast, grabbing a piece of debris and swinging it, hitting one thug in the head, stunning him. The mother gasped, and the little girl clutched her mother tightly. The human then pulled them sideways into a hidden doorway. Escaping the direct path of attack, they ran through narrow alleys, walls closing around them. The human led them through twisting streets, ducking under low-hanging pipes and sliding past broken crates. Every step was calculated, every movement precise. The thugs shouted behind them, their footsteps pounding the streets. The mother's heart raced, fear and hope tangled in her chest. A sudden noise made the little girl scream, and the human grabbed her, shielding her with his body. "It's okay," he whispered. "I have you." His words were steady, a small anchor in the chaos. The mother followed, moving quickly but carefully, trusting him completely now. She saw the determination in his eyes, the willingness to risk everything for them. They reached an abandoned transport hub, a maze of old containers and rusted vehicles. The human led them through the gaps, hiding behind piles of metal and broken walls. Every sound seemed louder here, echoes bouncing in the empty space. A drone's red light swept across the area, its sensors scanning for movement. The human pressed the mother and daughter down, holding them close to the ground. The light passed, and they exhaled quietly, hearts still racing, but their relief was brief. Another group of hunters appeared, surrounding the area. The human's mind raced, calculating every option, every alley, every container could be a trap. He grabbed a rusted metal pipe and held it defensively, ready to fight if necessary. The mother whispered, "We cannot outrun them forever." And the human nodded, knowing she was right. Then he noticed a small maintenance tunnel, barely visible, hidden behind an old vehicle. "This way," he said quickly, pulling them toward it. The tunnel was narrow and dark, the air damp, but it offered a chance to escape the hunters who closed in. They crawled inside, the little girl whining softly from fear. The mother pressed her close, murmuring, "We are safe, just a little more." The tunnel twisted and turned, every corner a potential threat. The human led them silently, listening for footsteps or mechanical hums. Every second felt like an hour. Every shadow could be an enemy. He moved with caution, ensuring the mother and daughter were never in the front line, protecting them every step. Finally, they emerged into an old abandoned park outside the city's limits. The open space was eerie and quiet, a stark contrast to the city's chaos. The mother and daughter paused, catching their breath, their faces wet with sweat and dirt, yet their eyes reflected relief and a flicker of hope. The human looked back toward the city, knowing the hunters would not give up easily. But for now, they had distance, a moment to plan their next move. The little girl looked at the human, eyes shining with trust. "Thank you," she whispered softly. The mother placed a hand on his arm. "We would have been lost without you," she said, gratitude and awe in her voice. The human nodded silently, accepting the unspoken bond forming between them, a bond forged in fear, danger, and survival. As night deepened, the human led them further into the shadows, moving away from the city, each step careful, deliberate, and protective. He knew the real journey had only just begun. The danger outside the city was unknown, perhaps greater than what they had faced, but he was determined, no matter the threat, he would keep them alive in that quiet, abandoned park. Under the cold stars, the human, the widow, and her daughter found a fragile safety, a moment of peace amid chaos, a chance to breathe, think, and prepare. And even as the shadows whispered threats around them, hope flickered, small but stubborn. Ready to grow, the abandoned park offered them a small moment of relief. The mother and her daughter huddled close together, shivering from fear and exhaustion. The human scanned the darkness, his senses alert. He knew danger could appear at any moment, and he could not let his guard down. The wind whispered through broken trees, carrying distant city noises, reminders that the hunters were still out there. "We need shelter," he said softly, his eyes scanning the horizon for any sign of safety. The mother nodded, her hands trembling as she held her daughter tightly. "Anywhere is better than here," she whispered, her voice barely audible. The little girl clung to her mother, hiding, her small face, her eyes reflecting both fear and hope. The human crouched beside them. "I know a place," he said. "It is hidden, and no one will find us there." He led them through a narrow path between trees and broken structures, moving silently, each step calculated, careful not to make any sound that could alert the hunters. The mother followed, trusting him completely now. The little girl occasionally peeked out, her eyes wide, watching the shadows shift around them. Every rustle of leaves made her jump, and the human gently reassured her. "It's okay, stay close." After some time they reached a small camouflage structure, half hidden by fallen trees and vines. The human pushed aside the vines, revealing a metal door, old and slightly rusted, but solid inside, he whispered, helping the mother and daughter enter. The air inside was musty and dust covered the floor, but it was safe, and most importantly hidden. As they settled inside, the mother looked around, awe and relief mixing in her expression. "How did you find this place?" she asked softly. The human smiled faintly. "I know people who can help us. People who live off the grid," he explained. "They owe me favors, and they do not ask questions." The mother nodded slowly, feeling a fragile hope, something she had not felt for a long time. The little girl wandered to a corner, sitting on the floor. Hugging her knees, her small eyes were full of curiosity and trust. "Will they hurt us?" she asked in a whisper. The human knelt beside her. "No one will hurt you here, I promise," he said. Placing a protective hand on her shoulder, she nodded slowly, feeling safer for the first time in days. Outside, the city lights glimmered faintly, distant but ever present, a reminder that danger was never far. The human leaned against the wall, thinking, planning their next steps. The mother watched him, admiration growing. She had never met anyone like him before, someone willing to risk everything for strangers, someone who became their shield in a world full of predators. Hours passed, and they spoke little, each lost in their own thoughts. The human prepared a small fire using old supplies found in the shelter, the warm light offering comfort and security. The mother finally spoke. "Why do you care so much?" "You do not owe us anything," she said softly, curiosity and gratitude in her tone. The human paused, looking at her. "Because it is right," he said simply. "Because someone has to do it." As the fire crackled, shadows danced on the walls, making the space feel alive and protective. The little girl sat close to her mother, occasionally glancing at the human. Her small voice broke the silence. "Thank you for saving us," she whispered. The human nodded, a small smile appearing. "We are not finished yet, but we will survive this together," he said, his tone firm and reassuring. Suddenly, a faint noise came from outside, a whisper of movement. The human immediately moved to the door, peering through a small crack, his eyes sharpened, scanning for threats. Nothing moved, but he stayed alert, knowing that danger could appear at any moment. The mother held her daughter tighter, feeling the tension in the air. The little girl whispered, "Are they coming?" And the human shook his head. "Not yet, but we must be ready." The night passed slowly, filled with quiet vigilance. Every sound made them jump. Every shadow seemed alive. But in the hidden shelter, they found a fragile safety, a small comfort, and a moment to breathe. The human kept watch, alert to every movement outside, knowing that help might arrive soon. The mother and daughter rested, their trust in him growing, bond forming stronger with every passing hour. By dawn, the human had prepared a plan. "We cannot stay here forever," he said, "but help is nearby." The mother nodded, her heart lighter, her hope stronger. The little girl held his hand, feeling a strange courage she had never known before. Together, they would face the dangers ahead, relying on each other and on the hidden ally waiting to help them. The first light of dawn crept over the horizon, painting the abandoned park in pale shades of gray. The human checked the area outside the shelter carefully, making sure no one had followed them. The mother and her daughter were still asleep, curled together on the cold floor, trusting him completely now. A fragile peace hung in the air. But the human knew it would not last long. He had promised them safety. But the city's hunters were relentless. They would not stop until they claimed their target. The human knew he needed help. Allies who could move in the shadows as he did. People who would not ask questions. People who owed him favors. He had only one option. A dangerous alliance with someone whose loyalty was uncertain. He retrieved a small communicator from his jacket, flicking it on with a soft beep. A faint static answered him, and then a voice spoke, low and cautious. "I knew you would call." The human took a deep breath. "I need your help," he said. "There are 2 aliens in danger, a widow and her daughter, and hunters are closing in." The voice on the other end was calm but full of hidden menace. "Why should I risk anything for them?" The human's eyes narrowed, understanding the risk. "Because if you do not, they will die, and the hunters will keep coming for you next." The pause was long tense. Then the voice replied, "Fine, I will help, but nothing is free." The human nodded, expecting the cost. "I know, but they are worth it," he said simply. Minutes later, a figure emerged from the shadows outside the shelter. Cloaked and moving silently, the human stepped forward, his hand ready to fight if necessary. But the figure raised a hand in peace. "I am here to help," the ally said, voice calm but with an edge. The human studied them, searching for any sign of betrayal, finally nodding. "Good, we have no time." The mother awoke, rubbing her eyes, confusion and fear mixing on her face. "Who is this?" she asked softly. The human moved in front of her and the little girl protectively. "Someone who will help us escape," he said. "Stay behind me." The little girl peeked out, curiosity and fear in her eyes, clinging to her mother. The ally spoke. "I have information on the hunters' movements, routes, and patrol times. If we move carefully, we can get you to safety." The human nodded, absorbing every detail, planning the escape. "We must leave before noon. Patrols will intensify," he said. Checking the mother and daughter for readiness, they nodded. Understanding the danger and trusting him fully, they moved cautiously through the park, keeping to shadows and broken structures. The ally led them through narrow paths, showing shortcuts and hidden routes. The mother followed, her heart pounding, every step filled with fear and hope. The little girl held onto her mother's hand, eyes wide, staring at the dark shapes around them. Suddenly, a drone hovered above, its red eye scanning the area. The human ducked behind a rusted vehicle, pulling the mother and daughter down with him. The ally threw a small device that emitted smoke, obscuring the drone's sensors. The machine wavered, then moved on, and the group exhaled quietly, relief washing over them. "We are not safe yet," the human whispered, moving forward. The ally nodded. "Another patrol ahead, we must be silent," they continued, stepping carefully over broken glass and debris, their shadows long and twisted. In the early morning light, the mother whispered to her daughter, "Stay quiet, keep close." The little girl nodded, hugging her mother tightly, fear and courage mingling in her small heart. They reached an abandoned transport line, long and forgotten. The human led them onto a small maintenance vehicle, silent and hidden. The ally worked quickly, overriding the controls, and soon they were moving along the tracks, away from the hunters' patrol zones. The mother finally exhaled, relief breaking through her tension. "We are moving. We are safe," she said softly, but even as they moved, the human knew danger was never far. The hunters would not give up. And this alliance was fragile, built on trust but balanced on fear. He glanced at the mother and daughter, their faces reflecting trust and hope, and he promised himself, silently, he would protect them no matter the cost, even if it meant facing death. The maintenance vehicle rattled along the tracks, carrying them through abandoned tunnels and bridges. Each turn and shadow brought a new fear, but also a new determination. The ally remained close, silently assisting, their eyes always scanning for threats. The human felt a strange mixture of hope and tension, knowing the real test was yet to come. By midday, the tracks brought them near the edge of the forest outside the city. The human prepared to guide them into deeper hiding, where hunters would be even less likely to follow. The mother and daughter clutched each other, exhausted but safe for the first time in days. "We are almost there," the human said, determination burning in his eyes. And in that moment, the dangerous alliance, fragile and uncertain, became their lifeline, a bridge between survival and hope. between fear and freedom, and as the forest loomed ahead, the human knew the final battle to protect them was still to come. The forest loomed ahead, dark and thick, yet it promised freedom. The human led the mother and her daughter cautiously, moving silently between the shadows, every step careful, every sound alerting him to possible danger. The ally followed close behind, scanning the area for any hunters or traps. The little girl clutched her mother's hand, her small feet moving quickly over roots and rocks. Suddenly, a sharp whistle cut through the forest, making the mother freeze, fear striking her heart. The human's eyes narrowed, recognizing the hunter's signal. "Hide," he whispered urgently, pushing them behind a fallen tree. The ally crouched low, holding a small device that emitted a high-pitched frequency, confusing the hunter's scanners. The mother and daughter huddled together, holding their breath, hearts pounding. The hunters passed by, voices harsh and mocking, unaware of the hidden trio. The human waited until the sounds faded before moving again. "This way," he said softly, pointing to a narrow path barely visible among the trees. They followed, each step a mix of hope and fear, knowing the hunters could appear at any moment. Hours passed as they moved deeper into the forest, the sun climbing higher, light filtering through the leaves. The human found a small stream, clear and flowing. "Drink, rest for a moment," he said, crouching beside them. The mother knelt, helping her daughter drink, while she herself drank greedily. Relief washed over them, but tension lingered. The ally spoke quietly. "We are close to a safe zone. Just a few more miles, but we must be careful. Hunters may have reinforcements nearby." The human nodded, his jaw tight, every muscle alert. The little girl looked at him, eyes wide and trusting. "Will we be safe soon?" she asked softly. The human smiled faintly. "Almost keep holding on," he whispered, feeling the weight of responsibility heavier than ever. As they reached a clearing, a low rumble echoed from the trees. The human's heart skipped a beat, recognizing the hunter's new approach. "Get behind me," he said firmly, standing between the mother, daughter, and the approaching threat. The ally readied a small energy weapon, glowing faintly in the dim light, ready to defend them. The hunters appeared, moving cautiously, scanning the area, unaware that the human had prepared a trap. With a swift motion, he activated a net device, ensnaring the first few hunters, while the ally discharged a blinding light, temporarily disorienting the rest. The mother and daughter held each other tightly, gasping at the sudden chaos. The human moved like lightning, incapacitating the remaining hunters with precise strikes, each movement calculated, efficient, leaving no room for error. The ally assisted, using gadgets to immobilize the enemies. Together, they neutralized the threat, leaving the hunters unconscious and defeated. The mother and daughter stared in awe, fear giving way to astonishment and relief. Finally, the forest opened to a hidden valley, safe from the hunters' reach. The human led them down a narrow path, arriving at a small settlement, built for those escaping danger. The ally smiled. "You are safe now. No one here will harm you." The mother fell to her knees, tears streaming down her face. "Thank you," she whispered, gratitude spilling over. The little girl ran to the human, hugging his leg tightly. "You saved us," she said, voice trembling. The human knelt, holding her close. "We survived together," he said gently, a sense of peace finally settling over him. The mother joined them, wrapping her arms around both, forming a circle of protection and love. As the sun dipped toward the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and gold, the human looked around, realizing the battle was over. But their journey of healing and freedom had just begun. He had kept his promise, shielding them from a world full of predators, and given them a chance to live in safety. The mother's eyes met his, full of trust and hope. "We owe you everything," she said softly. The human shook his head. "You owe me nothing. You only need to live and be free," he said, a quiet strength in his voice. The little girl laughed. A sound so pure it filled the air with lightness. The human smiled, finally, allowing himself to relax, knowing they had survived the darkness and found safety. They walked into the settlement together. A small family formed through courage, trust, and love, and as night fell, the stars shining above, freedom finally felt real. Their lives no longer ruled by fear. The forest behind them was a memory of danger and struggle, the valley ahead, promise of hope and new beginnings. And the human, once a stranger, had become their protector, their hero, their family, a bond unbreakable, forged in fear, courage, and humanity.